Concerns are growing in Nigeria over corruption within the national budget as the National Assembly faces accusations of manipulating financial allocations. Despite 100 billion naira earmarked for zonal intervention and constituency projects, the National Assembly is accused of diverting public funds for personal gain through questionable budget line items. Allocations such as 100 million naira for tricycles, school renovations, street lights and boreholes have sparked public anger. Many believe politicians are misusing funds meant for community projects. The pervasive corruption has led Nigerians to demand greater transparency and accountability as mismanagement continues to hinder economic development and essential services. Ayomide Ladipo, head Tracka Nigeria, joins me for more on this. Hi, Ayomide. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, Petra. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, you have highlighted some discrepancies you noticed in the budget. I'd like you to talk to us about them. I mean, what are those things you've noticed so far?
Thank you very much. We've had this pandemic, if I'll use that word, we've had this pandemic for some years now, but we noticed that this last budget here, the 2024 budget, it skyrocketed. Like they made it a budget for the boys. Like, let's all just share. We have this money. Let everybody just take out of it and share as they want. You know, you have agencies that sent in budgets of less than 1 billion naira, and then NASS inserted so much and approved over 50 billion naira. Across different agencies, we have over 3 trillion naira worth of insertions by National Assembly. And the most painful thing about these insertions is that, of course, they are not well thought out. You can clearly see that these projects are problematic. You would see construction of a 1 kilometer road for 1 billion naira. In which world does it cost 1 billion naira to construct a 1 kilometer road? You see purchase of metal dustbins for 500 million naira under agencies that do not even have the mandate to even execute this kind of project. You see the National Institute of Oceanography distributing motorcycles, keke, the News Agency of Nigeria constructing solar street lights. So it's just like at this point in time, there's no need for they're just telling us that there's no need for MDAs to prepare budgets, to do proper research and prepare a budget line item based on how much we want to earn. It's just for the National Assembly to just start writing, take a biro and paper and start writing how they want the taxpayers' money to be spent. And so budget has decided to call out this issue that we must not see a repeat of this in the 2025 budget. The process has started already. And once that budget gets to the National Assembly, that's when they do all the maneuvering, all the butchering, everything, all the what's it called? All the insertions.
Let me come in here. Ayomide, let me come in here. Does this lend credence to, you know, the talks about budget padding that sort of goes on in that arm of government, and what can be done to actually stop this? Because that's what's important. I mean, having this understanding or having these revelations and all of that without anyone getting punished for it does not serve anyone. So what's the way forward? But before that, I'd like you to answer if this is actually what we're talking about, the budget padding. So should we then start asking questions when a budget is taken to the National Assembly, when they add a kobo, we need to ask, why are you adding it? And, you know, how do we even resolve all of this? Is because we're made to understand at some point that, well, the National Assembly probably has the right to, you know, take a look at some of those things and probably make some corrections and adjustments. How do we solve this?
Thank you very much. Yes, exactly. This is exactly what budget padding is. And this time around, the National Assembly has even taken it up a notch by inserting, an agency is going to submit a budget and you insert 100 times what they have submitted. And so that is already the problem. Now, talk about what we need to do about it. Now, this is a very tricky issue because the National Assembly should also be a checkmate for things, should be the checkmate for issues like this. This is why they are there. But they have decided to be both the offender and the adjudicator. So the point now is for Nigerians to use their voice to begin to shout that we must not see this. If not, of course, citizens are now being enlightened on recall processes. Citizens actually have to take extreme measures on having to start processes to recall their legislators, because unless the National Assembly knows that there will be dire consequences for issues like this, that's when they are going to stop. There's some people of the school of thought that, the ministries and the EFCC and ICPC should stop funds from being released. That's like cutting the head off after an headache. It's like medicine after death. These monies have been if we wait for the monies to be appropriated, that means the monies have legal backing to be released. And how many would you follow for it not to be? How many of these projects can you follow for them not to release funds for? So that's already a problem. We need to put pressure on the National Assembly that if we see this kind of issues in the 2025 budget, Nigerians will start recall processes. And yes, of course, they listen when it's time for taking action on some issues that they feel like they are distanced from. We see them take actions, like the recent saga that they've been inviting a particular person for and all that. But when it's time
you can
to
mention his name, you can go ahead. I think I know what you're talking about.
Not at all. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to dignify that. But when it's time to actually focus on the issues that matter, because this issue actually calls them out, they are not going to do anything. They are going to keep mum. So it's left for Nigerians to put pressure on them and tell them that there will be consequences for this.
Right, Ayomide, point taken. There will be consequences, and Nigerians need to rise to the occasion and know that they actually have the power. You can go ahead and do the recall thing. Perfect, wonderfully put. But then I'd like you to talk to us about the fact that you actually made this information public. So I want to assume the anti-corruption agencies, should be aware of these things. But just to be clear, do you have any information sharing platform with them, or do you think they are working on some of these revelations that are already put out there?
Thank you very much. Yes, we work closely with the ICPC and EFCC, mostly with the ICPC, who also embark on tracking these issues and investigating these issues. But the problem is that the ICPC has limited personnel. We also have limited personnel. There's only so much the ICPC can go after. There are over 21,000 projects in the budget currently, and half of them should not be there. And of course, we don't have the highest we can track. We even have more capacity than the ICPC to follow up on this issue. We have more personnel than the ICPC has. So if the highest we can do in a year is about less than 5,000, the ICPC does way less than that. So the issue, ICPC follows up. ICPC have been able to call some MDAs in for investigation on some of these projects. But the point is that the reason why we're doing this is that in 2025, we don't want to see this, because it is better we prevent it than after it has been legislated, but after it has been appropriated, then we start running helter-skelter and looking like headless chickens. Because for one that we follow up on, there are 10 others that we cannot, and that is also still a loophole.
Right. Now let's close on this. What's your thoughts on efficient budgeting in Nigeria? Is zero-based budgeting the answer, or what's your thought on this, cleaning this particular space up?
Thank you. I think I am a proponent of needs-based budgeting. We cannot work on zero-based budgeting because projects have lifespan of more than a year. So it's more of needs-based budgeting. And if we were doing more needs-based budgeting, we would not be where we are today. Also, the federal government needs to step back from microeconomic issues and actually focus on macroeconomic policies. There's no reason why the federal government should be having projects on constructing street lights or rural roads or distributing motorcycles. We have the state governments and the local governments for that. There's no reason why the federal government should be disturbing itself with distributing grinding machines and sewing machines. Focus the energy on macroeconomic policies and things that matter, and on major projects. And so it is this contractpreneur saga that we have, where everybody is getting kickbacks from procurement and contracts, that is making the federal government be doing the work of local government by putting up street lights, building town halls, and providing cars for traditional rulers. The federal government has no business with that. It should focus on macroeconomic policies that are affecting the country, and also focus on major projects that are federal projects that the states and the local government do not have capacity over. So my point is, let everybody do needs-based budgeting, but there will be even if the MDAs now do needs-based budgeting, we can see that the National Assembly is making a mockery of that, because even after the MDAs have submitted what they think that should be done, what will help the country, then the National Assembly comes and inserts and puts in what they feel like putting it into the budget, and that is the problem.
A very big one, if you ask me. Is there a chance that Nigeria's fiscal challenges can actually be reduced by, a considerable percentage if these processes are cleaned up and made transparent?
Yes, because we even do not have, of course, the mess we are in today is because we're not generating enough revenue to cater to our issues. We are in debt. We can't fund our budget. And if we can't fund our budget, then why are we having an overbloated and unrealistic budget, and for things that do not matter? If we're able to cut down the processes and make it more efficient, then we can be sure that the limited resources we have are going into projects and issues that would actually directly improve the quality of life of you and me and every other Nigerian out there.
Right. So let me close on this. How do you think, or how can technology be leveraged to sort of improve transparency and accountability in Nigeria's budgeting process? I mean, particularly concerning tracking public funds from, allocation to execution, because that's another thing. I mean, on the one hand, there is the budget padding, and on the other hand, there is the issue of allocation and maybe disbursement and then execution, which you also track. Talk to us about this.
One thing we have been advocating for is that there's a need for more transparency in the execution of public projects. We already have the data on the allocations everywhere. It's out there. But where's the data on the execution? Why should ministries, departments, and agencies who are in charge of executing these projects not have a central database where they provide updates on the status of this project? We have to write to MDAs to give us updates on projects, and after we write FY requests, some respond, some don't even respond, which is illegal by the way. And when some respond, they don't even provide us with what we need. Meanwhile, they have this data. It is data that should be there for every Nigerian to be able to see. So we call for MDAs need to digitize their operations. Let us see the procurement processes that made you choose this contractor. Let us see how far this contractor has gone. Let us see why you paid this contractor this amount of money, because you were able to confirm that they have done this level of work. In the last Auditor General's report, which was in the 2020 report, by the way, that's the most recent one we have, there are over 3 billion naira were paid to contractors there was no evidence for the completion of the work. So if these things can be stopped, if this process is digitized already, Nigerians and everybody, media, CSOs, we can easily flag these issues or instead of waiting for 4 years after an Auditor General's report, and we can't even do anything about it, right? So we say that MDAs should digitize their operations. You have these details, put it online for everybody to see if you don't have anything to hide.
And that's exactly what it is. If you do not have anything to hide, then make it public. Thank you so much, Ayomide Ladipo, Head Tracka in BudgIT Nigeria, for your time and thoughts.
Thank you, Petra.